Hey, architecture firm owners and emerging leaders. Get ready for unparalleled insight into the development of a world-class architecture firm and a worldwide organization driving the digital transformation of the design and construction industry. With Build Smart, the podcast that's changing how our profession operates. We share the incredible stories behind innovation in the building industry with my friend and co-host, Patrick McLeamy, FAIA, former CEO of the international architecture firm, HOK.
You know, Yamasaki's office or firm lasted during his lifetime. And when he passed away, I think that was the end of the Yamasaki office. Helmut did not want that. He wanted a firm that would live out and grow beyond the founders.
In Season 1, discover the untold stories behind HOK's meteoric rise, from 150 employees in St. Louis to a powerhouse with over 1,900 staff members and 27 offices worldwide.
You know, they weren't as polite as the Kojima people. That was just boom. And anytime you have a creditor, whether it's Kojima or the bank, that wants their money, unless you can raise money someplace else, you are out of business.
Bankrupt. And hold on tight for Season 2, where Patrick takes us on a new adventure as chairman of Building Smart International, shaping the future of digital transformation in the design, construction, and operation of built assets.
Ian Howell, Ken Harold, and I, Ken was my technical representative from HOK. The three of us took a tour of Europe of 5 cities in 5 days. Very busy time.
Simply follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Smart now and uncover lessons that will transform you and your architecture firm. Hey, architecture firm owners and emerging leaders. Get ready for unparalleled insight into the development of a world-class architecture firm and a worldwide organization driving the digital transformation of the design and construction industry. With Build Smart, the podcast that's changing how our profession operates. We share the incredible stories behind innovation in the building industry with my friend and co-host, Patrick McLeamy, FAIA, former CEO of the international architecture firm, HOK.
You know, Yamasaki's office or firm lasted during his lifetime. And when he passed away, I think that was the end of the Yamasaki office. Helmut did not want that. He wanted a firm that would live out and grow beyond the founders.
In Season 1, discover the untold stories behind HOK's meteoric rise, from 150 employees in St. Louis to a powerhouse with over 1,900 staff members and 27 offices worldwide.
You know, they weren't as polite as the Kojima people. That was just boom. And anytime you have a creditor, whether it's Kojima or the bank, that wants their money, unless you can raise money someplace else, you are out of business.
Bankrupt. And hold on tight for Season 2, where Patrick takes us on a new adventure as chairman of Building Smart International, shaping the future of digital transformation in the design, construction, and operation of built assets.
Ian Howell, Ken Harold, and I, Ken was my technical representative from HOK. The three of us took a tour of Europe of 5 cities in 5 days. Very busy time.
Simply follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Smart now and uncover lessons that will transform you and your architecture firm. My name is Mark R. LePage, and you are listening to EntreArchitect podcast, where each week I speak with inspiring, passionate people who share their knowledge and expertise, all to help you build a better business as a small firm entrepreneur architect. Today I'm joined by 2 innovators in the world of cargo architecture. Leslie Horn, founder and CEO of 3 Squared, has led the company to the forefront of container construction, attracting over $82 million in projects. And Breck Crandell, director of design, brings his passion for affordable housing and deep architectural expertise to 3 Squared's groundbreaking work. And together, they're redefining how we think about sustainable modular design. Leslie Horn and Breck Crandell, welcome to EntreArchitect Podcast.
Well, it's a thrill to be here, and thanks for the invitation.
I'm excited about the conversation today. Let's get into it.
Me too. I'm looking forward to it as well. And I've never heard of it called cargo architecture. And so I'm excited to have that conversation. I understand what it is. I love the concept. I even love more the business behind the concept. So I would love to talk about that a little bit. But before we do that, I'd like to know each of your origin stories. Where did you get started? When did you discover your passion for architecture? And who or what inspired you to get started? Leslie, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I'm happy and thrilled to. So my story is a little bit unique. I have founded 3 Squared Inc., and I am not an architect. I started out as a real estate developer back in 2004. I actually moved from San Diego to the city of Detroit to start that career path. And oh my goodness, within a matter of years, did a whole bunch of rehabs, close to 30 of them, and then the market tanked. But during that portion of the rehabs, one of my contractors came up to me and asked, "Hey, have you seen and heard everything about like the shipping container construction?" I'm like, dude, I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. Get back to work. And, just poo-pooed him. He goes, "Leslie, I'm serious. You've got to see what's happening over in Europe. It's everywhere. It's been going on for like 10, 15 years. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Drew, I'm serious too. You have got to get back to work, right? I just dismissed him entirely. But then as we saw the market tank in 2008 and then in 9, I'm thinking to myself, holy cannoli, what am I going to do with this land? Maybe I should look into this cargo architecture thing. So took a step back. We actually got the first project approved in the entire United States, an apartment complex here in the city of Detroit at the end of 2009. All I'm grateful for is that we never had the opportunity to build it. Didn't know what we were doing, didn't know how to apply building code. We would have lost our shirts on this project. So it forced me as a business person to kind of take a step back, kind of figure out really what the next and highest and best process was. And so over the next few years, raised a little capital, built a model center in 2015. I knew at that moment we needed to have in-house architecture. And in 2017, with great minds sitting around an entire table, we decided that 3 Squared Inc. and our highest and best use would be an architecture firm. We had just brought on Breck Crandell, and Breck is going to share the second half of our story and how we've transitioned and how we've embraced cargo architecture, but also how it's led to other innovations. And I think that's where we started. And I'll tell you, the first year, right out of the gate, we knew we had made the correct decision because we were granted with additional 18 projects in the first year. And so we knew we were on the right path. And it wasn't just about shipping containers. What we're finding, it's about sustainability. All right, so that's where I'm at. And we're so excited about the path and the course corrections and the pivots and really where today's market is of architecture. But I believe we have really hit an amazing stride. And I believe we have really hit a niche that is resonating with people, not just on sustainability, but energy efficiencies, as well as cost savings and things of that sort. But it's a whole piece. Breck, I'm going to let you take the second part of that.
What's your story, Breck?
Well, I was one of the lucky few. I knew exactly what I wanted to be before I even stepped foot into high school. So it was
Me too.
A nonstop blade. Yeah, we get lucky like that sometimes. So everything I did in high school was transitioning for it. After Hurricane Katrina, I took a total of 7 trips down south to Mississippi, rebuilt houses with Habitat for Humanity. So that's where I learned like construction methods and how to put a house together. Found that architects are like doctors, they're specialists, right? You're not good at everything. It's too complicated of a profession. And so I was also lucky in that I found pretty early on that my passion was truly for housing. And so that's kind of what I've put a lot of emphasis and focus on. Well, we've worked on other projects. That's truly where the heart lies. So got out of high school, dove directly into college, went to Lawrence Technological University, just north of Detroit, where I
That's how you ended up in Detroit.
finished my master's degree there while working at firms. I spent some time traveling. I worked at firms East Coast and West Coast and landed back in Detroit. It's a hard city to get away from just because the opportunities it creates is unlike no other. It's still a bit of the Wild West, if you get what I mean. And that was about the time that I met Miss Leslie Horn. And you talk about crazy, wild stuff. She had put out the first shipping container building permanent in Michigan. So that's where I met her the first time, was going over to that model center and getting a feeling for that. And as an architect I was getting my license like right around the time that I met Leslie. And so it was like the perfect situation that this firm was looking at transitioning not only from like construction management and development, but then the architectural arm. And, after a couple of projects, Leslie and I sat down. I'm like, well, we could do 2 or 3 projects a year if we're handling from A to Z, very involved in the fabrication and logistics and transportation and setting of, modular components like shipping containers. Or we could be the architects and designers, and we could put all the emphasis and energy that we've learned over the years directly to work and do 30 projects a year. And that was the moment it clicked. And ever since then, 3 Squared Architecture and Design has been powering through projects in 17 different states, about 46 completed projects under our belt. I've got an additional 8 under construction as we speak right now, and more on the table. So we're excited to see where things go from here.
Very exciting. The first thing I picked up, Leslie, on your story, San Diego to Detroit.
I get that a lot.
So was Detroit the opportunity? Is that why you did that?
Yeah, it sure was. And it was a good place to learn the craft of real estate development, right? Because the low-hanging fruit cost of entry was good and mistakes were cheap. And, going to a place like San Diego, you have one chance, right, in order to make it or break it. So I did move here, and I thought I'd actually be here for a year. I moved here because we had started developments and we had the wrong team in the field, and we quickly learned that you have to be here to supervise them. So I did. I moved out here, and then that's when, got a great rhythm going and met some great team members in addition to city connections, and really just made a way and made a path. It was very methodical and very structured, business-like, until the crash hit. I mean, it affected everybody. And that's when you have to kind of take a step back and go, what do I need to do next? What's going to be really the highest and best use of my talent? And what's a good path for this city right now? I am so in love with the city of Detroit. It's amazing. It's an incredible, incredible city.
Leslie, what is your path to becoming a developer?
I was tired of what I was doing in the past. I had some financial background with Series 6 license and insurance. I then also, have a little path of different pockets of talents, became a national speaker in addition to a top marketing for small businesses. And so in all of that, I was like, man, this is not my passion. I don't see myself retiring from that. And I thought, I want to build. I want to see something in the real estate arena, and went to a class, a couple of them actually, and really became just enamored. And it's exciting. It's a puzzle. And so I enjoy the puzzle pieces that go together.
Yeah, that's a great story. So the crash happens. One of your contractors come to you with this crazy idea of shipping containers. You're like, I don't want to do shipping containers. Get back to work. I want to do buildings.
Yeah.
I understand that the crash happened and the shipping container sort of was an opportunity. You got that first project permitted, but you said that it wasn't built. What caused it to not be built? Was it the recession?
Yeah, absolutely. The recession. And had we even started it, it would have cost us twice as much. We would have been in the ground and just dead on arrival because we didn't know the building codes. Because I looked at all the information on the internet like everybody else does today, and none of the stuff that we were talking about really met building codes. So we weren't accounting for it. We used to say it cost 50% less to do a shipping container constructed building. oh my lordy, did we learn fast that you still have to meet building codes. You still have to fur out your walls and do all of your insulation and all of those pieces that everybody thought containers were going to resolve.
Right.
They did not. And I'll tell you, bringing Breck on was probably one of the most, I'm going to just say, genius moments of 3 Squared and my decisions, primarily because it brought rationale, right? And then at the moment in 2015, when we built this building, we still were not making money. It's like, well, we built it as a business platform. We still were in the development or consulting world. But then we brought the whole team together and it's like, hey, we know building codes. We know cargo architecture. This is kind of really cool. And boy, it's not going away. We knew it was not going to go away. And so as we progressed with projects, Breck progressed with building code compliance and an infrastructure that really was able to take us into the next level. And that's how we developed an architectural firm. And I still practice with business models and business infrastructure to complement the world of architecture. And I think that's where we are gone today. You know, you will see in our name, there's nothing in there that says 3 Squared shipping containers.
Right.
And it's because we've learned that what we do can transition into other modalities, other materials that are just as modular. And I'm going to open up that can of worms as a container or prefabricated. So, it's a good model to be in. And, containers don't make sense for every project. And we are one of those team members that will tell our clients, hey, do not do containers. It's going to cost too much, or we are going to have to rent a $10,000 crane, or it's just, there's a better way to go about this.
What would you say is the biggest challenge to working with containers? And at the same time, knowing what that biggest challenge is, how is that a strength of yours from a business point of view, right? Niching down to the point where you are not just a sustainable design architecture firm, but you focus and specialize in this specific type of architecture.
I'd love to hear Breck's point of view because I think there's a positive and I think there's a negative. And I want to hit the positive and then we can talk about the trouble we got into as a result of that, because we were known as the GOATs, right? Like the greatest of all time and most knowledgeable in cargo architecture. And that's a strength because when you need something done, and there's a lot of imposters out there, and there's a lot of people who think they know it and they don't. And we've had to go in behind another architect or another engineer to fix the problem. And that is not a cheap fix. It's just not. But I share with you that there are some really great benefits of cargo architecture, and we know them all. And the fact that they are sustainable, something that's been built and used once or twice, and then sometimes retired or discarded. We're able to take a material and upcycle that, right? And that really hits a nerve with a lot of people. The number 1 and 2 groups of people who love cargo architecture are people like myself, right? These are people who are retired, empty nesters, or downsizing their retirement homes. And then, we've got the young kids who are like, oh my God, this is so amazing. I'm living in something cool. There's a story about it, right?
Right. Yeah.
But then on the downside, that's all we were known for. Breck, I want you to answer the next piece to that. I want you to continue on the conversation, Mark, if you're okay with that.
Yeah. Breck, what would you say is the biggest challenge with using shipping containers?
Well, I think the biggest challenge incorporates a couple of sub-challenges. So hear me out. Containers are built to move goods and products around the globe. They're ubiquitous. Every country on Earth uses ISO shipping containers. Mind you, shipping containers, C-Box, Connex, C-Cans, whatever you call them. We just picked one, which just kind of was the overarching term. We're like, cargo architecture. I don't know, rolled off the tongue. And I'm waiting for somebody to tell me that we weren't the ones that coined it. So until further notice, I'm going to stay with it. But cargo architecture implies that we're taking an existing material and repurposing it, upcycling it, if you want to use that terminology, into a building. And they were not meant as a building object. Now they're effectively 10,000 pound Legos, but they are built for a different use. And so we're taking something from a different industry for a different purpose, highly engineered object, and we're transforming it for its application. And so what that means is that I would say probably the single biggest hurdle to using something that wasn't meant for buildings as buildings is going to be regulations. And so code and municipalities have something to say about it. It took Leslie and I and our collaborators, because we're not the only ones in the space. And if you've worked with cargo architecture in the United States or North America in the last 7 years, Leslie and I have talked to them. I can almost guarantee you. We all know each other. We don't believe in competition. It's all collaboration because we're working on similar stuff.
Right. Yeah.
They have learned many of the same lessons that we have. And it took us all working together years to even get the International Building Code Council to respond to us, which finally manifested in 2021, where they added one special page in the provisions at the back of the International Building Code that allowed for the use of ISO shipping containers if you follow their standards, which was a huge win, because then when we're going into municipalities to have this conversation, because everybody has their mindset already put in place, like there's a stigma to it where, oh, this rusty box that we're going to set on this property. It's like, no, like, we're going to blow codes out of water because that's a bare minimum path to entrance. Like we have to. Are they transporting pesticides in these? And like, yes, they are, but those are flagged and put in a separate category. We'd never touch those. We're like, our containers are not radioactive. What do you think we're doing here? We answer the same silly question.
Unless you want them to be.
Yeah, exactly.
We were fighting this uphill battle and getting through the approvals, just the red tape. I can't tell you how many projects just got stalled out because they just didn't understand, and to put that effort in to educate somebody on something different. And so that same challenge of using something that's not meant for the industry initially, bleeds into subcontractors, contractors. It's hard to find builders because they think it's something totally wild and different when it's like, it's still a toilet, it's still an electrical panel, like everything else is still the same. We're just replacing wood framing with a big steel frame, right? It's not that complicated. But that educational process to get people to understand it seemed to be like such a hurdle on the front end. And then every subcontractor who shows up on site is like, oh, I'm doing something different. And their eyes light up with dollar signs. So it's right, an educational process where you just have to walk people through it. Like it's really not that different. And the ever complicated orb that is a building, we're just swapping out like a couple of line items for something that like truly is a superior product if it's used in the right application. And so couple of nuances with using containers as an architectural element. And if you talk to anybody who's built with them, they arrive at very similar conclusions, which is why we have transitions to almost exclusively. So here's some of the nuts and bolts of the industry.
That was my next question.
Some tasty morsels here. We learned, after a couple of years, fully used containers. So containers that have circulated the globe time and time again. They get dented, they get dinged up, they have, different conditions on them, and they're dealing with the most corrosive substance known to mankind, which is ocean water. And so they come in a variety of different statuses. Meanwhile, 90% plus of the world's containers are all manufactured in China. They're not going to stop making containers. And so they continue to put them into circulation, and you have the opportunity to buy new containers. I put that in air quotes because there's no such thing as a new container. It has to be loaded with goods and shipped to its destination at least once. So they're called one-trippers. And we found that using one-trip containers was a significant pickup in the timeline and the quality of work. So Model Center that Leslie built, 9 containers. I think 6 of them traveled the globe together a few times over and then landed at a doorstep. And they didn't come without their challenges. There was some corrective measures to take, because when you take a perfect cube and you poke holes into it, you got to make up for the holes you put into it. That's the way it's engineered. So we've perfected how to reinforce them structurally for their application. So it can be done, but when you're spending all the time and energy to correct these dings and dents on them, it really detracted from your bottom line, which could have just been swapped out by getting a one-tripper, which is going to be in an almost immaculate condition every single time. And that advent, which a lot of the companies who use containers for architectural elements are not only using those one-trippers, but there's a whole nother page to this book where people are building containers from scratch that are better suited as construction elements. So there's like a handful of things like forklift pockets. I don't need those. It actually presents an architectural challenge to waterproof and cover those when all is said and done. When you get into municipal approvals and you're trying to get approval for a design, I'll tell you what, you hide the corners and the door hardware, nobody even knows it's a shipping container. The questions disappear. They don't actually care anymore. And so you build them without those elements, or you hide those elements very tastefully, and your path to approval and success skyrockets from that point. And so now we have a lot of collaborators, and the fabrication services that Leslie and I use for our projects are oftentimes weighing the balance, the cost difference. Do we procure single-use containers? Do we look for the condition of used containers? If we only need like one or two, it's a lot different than a project that needs 40 or 50 of them. Or do we have these custom fabricated in a modular fashion where they're actually not containers at all? They're modular steel, but they're using all the components of shipping containers because there's a whole globe that utilizes them. So like, ask yourself this, like, why is a bridge height the height that it is? Why is a road width the width that it is? Why is a semi-truck chassis 8 feet wide, 40 feet long, and has a height limitation of 10 feet? It is ISO shipping containers have actually crafted the shipping and receiving world around us. There's nothing in our lives that isn't affected by containers. And so to use them as an architectural element, you're like, well, yeah, you can move them anywhere. You can place them anywhere. And so all the industries that come after are really, even if they don't intend to, borrowing lessons from building with containers. So if you talk to a modular manufacturer, their rule sets are dictated by what shipping containers pave the road for. Because they can't build anything really that far out of line from the shape, size, and dimensions of a shipping container, or they can't move it. So what's the point of building it, right? So that allows us to really expand and working with other modular manufacturers and other construction types that also meet the same dimensional standards and the thought process behind working with containers. As much as we use them, we're also working with modular steel or prefabricated wood elements that, again, like all trace back to the origin roots of an ISO container.
Let's take a quick break to say thank you to our sponsors for their support of this episode. Gain lessons learned and credits earned with Arcademy, ARCAT's continuing education program. Listen to popular episodes of the Detailed podcast and earn AIA-approved HSW credits. Yes, you heard that right, HSW credits for episodes of Detailed podcast. Listen to an episode, check out the learning objectives, and use what you've learned while listening to take the course. The program is free, it's simple, and can be found at arcat.com under the Resources tab. Or just go to arcat.com/arcademy. That's arcat.com/arcatemy. That's arcat.com/arcademy. Please visit our sponsors today and thank them. Thank them for supporting you, the EntreArchitect community. So what actually has to happen to a shipping container to be able to use it as an architectural element? What does it have to do to get it to the point where it does meet code? And why is there a benefit to using a container over just traditional building methods?
I'll start this one, and I'll just give a great example. If you're in the state of Florida and you have a hurricane, it's the strength and durability. This is why you would want something that's steel structured. Because when a tree or a car crashes on your home will be dented. That's it. It'll be dented. Yes, you'll blow out your windows if they're not protected, or your doors if they're not protected, but you're only going to have dents in your house. That's it. So the strength and durability is probably one of the biggest reasons why the container should be used. In addition to that, it is solid steel. We have to actually have air returns and make sure that there's opening for fresh air, because it is literally, we have our windows and such, but in order to prepare a container, it comes in, there's doors on one side, it's all corrugated steel, and then the roof panel is a lot lighter gauge steel than others. So when you take a container, if you're ripping out a full side, you've got to reinforce I think it's over 21 feet. If you take out of 40 feet, you've got to really start doing some heavy duty reinforcements. We have to bring in a structural engineer. So now the cost of that, $3,000 container, now you're bringing in engineering. Now you're bringing in additional steel. However, you're also now with economy of scale able to do that. So if you've got an apartment complex or if you've got 6 or 8 houses, now you're actually going to see the reducing of cost, the reduction of cost because of that, because now you've got a template and it's just rinse and repeat. But when you go into a fabrication center, everything's done off site. You don't have scrap steel on a site, cost any type of construction, trash and waste. But what you have is now you've got something that can be cut off site, reinforced. You can actually do everything up until you can actually modularize it. And there are some companies out there that will modularize our designs. GCs hate it. I mean, right? It's something brand new. But if we can get to minimally having all of the big openings cut, modified, and then have, even if there's a protective insulation or type of, when you pre-paint something, just getting some of the stuff done off site really speeds up the process once it's done. Our building here, the first time, 6 hours and 15 minutes is how long it took for us to erect this building. Now, our last clients down in Fort Wayne, Indiana, get this. Breck, how many containers was the Royal home?
5.
5 containers. Oh my God, less than 60 minutes, less than an hour, their building was done.
Wow.
It was really simply amazing. And
that's a huge advantage.
Oh, it is. And so now we're talking about how now, get your foundations in. You can use prefab, lots of different new materials out there. In one day, you can set a foundation, set your containers, and then let's get a roof up there. And you're almost weathered in immediately. You've just now got to put windows, unless your windows and doors were installed in the factory. So there's just a lot of different opportunities that will help a developer save money on the back end.
Breck, what kind of building types are you primarily focused on?
A little bit of everything. Again, it goes back to the initial scenario. So in terms of why you would use containers, Leslie's exactly right. It's performance. They're wind and watertight boxes, so they're airtight. So you heat or cool inside of it, you got less details to worry about because you're not putting 1,000 pieces together, you're putting 5 pieces together. So you really just have to seal those elements. They're actually really good at controlling sound for a lot of the same reasons. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the aesthetic value of containers. You get a ceiling. Leslie's in a container right now.
Yep.
You get a coffered ceiling look that, you'd have to pay a lot of money to get that if you were building from scratch. They also have the most substantial floors of any construction type ever. They are meant to be loaded with 60,000 pounds each and stacked 9 high and shipped across the world. So walking around on them, it's kind of laughable. The amount of engineering that goes into them. You could drive a tank in these buildings. So they're really well suited for a lot of applications. But it also, from an architectural standpoint, the more restrictions you have, the faster you can make progress. So I've been asked, by a number of different professions, if architecture with cargo boxes has restricted me. And the answer is no. Actually, it kind of sets me free because it allows me, with the rule sets that we understand in the office here, we could design so much faster and weed out alternate examples very, very quickly just by way of using the size of containers. Because we know what they are. They come in 40 foot or 20 foot. You're like, they're 10 footers. And there's all sorts of stuff. And there's reasons why we don't use them. A 53 foot container, fun fact, made out of aluminum, not made out of steel. Totally different beast. Totally different process, not really applicable. So we've got 20 foots and we've got 40 foots. You got standards, you have high cubes. There are nuances within them, but we understand all of those. And what that means is I can look at a project and tell you within minutes if containers even make sense. I know it sounds crazy, but you can lay them out and be like, you know what? Your buildable dimensions really are not suited for this. Why don't we look at something else? And that's huge. And it also allows us, when we're working with developers, as well as any other architect, the projects follow the money. As unfortunate as a reality that is, a lot of our projects won't see the light of day when we've put a lot of energy and effort into it. And what cargo architecture allows us to do is, within those modules, the way that we're thinking about design, is that we can respond to developers' pro formas very quickly. What I mean by that is, we can lay out a mixed unit multifamily building and we could have, 12 units across, and that could be 6 2-container, 1-bedroom units. But if in their research halfway through the process, they're like, we need 2 bedrooms. So it's like, well, we can switch this to 4 3-container units. And we really didn't change anything about the parameters of the building. It's just the inner workings, because we have so many templates and models to work from. It allows us to excel through that design process and meet the numbers where they're at in a flexible nature in order to achieve the end result. Now, I would say that there are projects that are better served, and it depends on why you're approaching it. So that's always my first question when we talk to a client is, why containers? Why would you come to us for this? Because we do a lot of custom single-family residential. And nobody is going to follow through on a ship a container custom building because it's going to save them oodles of money. It will. We will match pretty closely what sticks and bricks can do. And there are benefits, but there has to be a rationale as to why you want this. Do you want the story? Do you want that modern industrial appeal? There's some factors of this that you can't replace with another construction type. But if you're doing it because you want to save money, probably not the best solution. And there's other things that we can explore, but it does kick in that economy of scale. If you've got an A unit and a B unit and they're mirrored on each other, now it's 50 of each. It's an assembly line process, right? Once you figure out the engineering and the replacement, it's not hard work. It is just a lot of work to structurally reinforce 10,000 pound steel boxes. So if you're working in a factory environment where you have control over the tools, the utilities that you need to do that, and you get in the swing of just rinse and repeat, then you can have huge pickups on the cost of construction. You have quality control, so you have less issues on site. It's all the same benefits as modular construction, but it's really targeting this one piece of the puzzle. And I would like to take the opportunity to highlight a little secret that Leslie and I have figured out over the years. And that is, I'm going to have to define a term here, which is modular, because I know we've mentioned that a few times. And I'm sure you've probably covered this in other episodes. And you have a whole background and story about different architectural styles. But modular construction implies that more is done offsite than onsite, which means that mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and a lot of finishes are done in a factory environment. Modular construction is still mandated at a federal level. So that means that each state has their own rules, and that's who approves it. Your local city, like the city of Detroit, doesn't dictate modular construction. The state of Michigan actually does. And so when we're going for approvals on something as nuanced as cargo architecture, it just added another layer of red tape that we had to fight through. And so when Leslie was talking about the amount of effort that can be put into modifying a component before it's delivered to the site, we drew a line in the sand and we figured out very quickly, what can we do offsite that still allows this to be considered a site constructed building? And that was the magic ticket, and our approvals shot through the roof, and we've been paving a path forward ever since, because we use all the lessons learned from modular construction, but we draw the line right before they say, hey, we need a third-party inspector to go look at this in a factory, which is where modular gets beat up in terms of cost. That's why the cost of modular housing is so high. I firmly believe, and I've said this time and time again, that we look 10 years down the road, the majority of housing will be manufactured in a factory and be delivered to a site. I don't think there's any arguing with this. We have a housing crisis. We know that this is going to be, part of the solution. But Leslie and I found the workaround in the meantime, while we're waiting for those approvals, is that we have done all of our projects, with the exception of the fully modular ones. All of our cargo architecture projects have been modified offsite, but still constructed on site. In the same way that, like, you see a roof truss, they put it together off the site, but they bring it in and then they just stack them up there. We're kind of doing the same thing with shipping containers, where you could cut out all the steel, structurally reinforce it. You can give it a coat of paint, clean it. You can even frame the interiors, spray foam the exterior walls, send that to the site. And boy, you just saved yourself a couple of months on site. And now we stack them in sometimes as little as an hour. And now you're working inside of an enclosed environment. So when you're in the dead of winter, like, stacking 5 steel boxes, not a problem. And now all the tradespeople are coming into the project, are working in essentially an enclosed environment to finish the rest of the project out.
Breck is spot on. And what we've been able to do with those projects that have not made sense with containers, we've been exploring and have had great success in types of SIP panels, mass timber, other things that have the prefabrication ideology that allows us to design a project where it goes up fast and you are weathered in. Breck just finished his house, like his own personal home. And boy, I mean, you could follow us along on our Instagram account for that, but lots of lessons learned that we've taken from the modularity of cargo architecture. And now we feel so much more equipped when we sit down with clients. And if they've got a small budget and a small site and it's a single project, we're not talking to them about containers. We're talking to them typically about a type of SIP panel that has like extraordinary energy efficiencies. So our model these days are really, let's talk about sustainability, let's talk about energy efficiencies, and then cost effectiveness. And it's not just about the cost effectiveness on the bottom line of cost per square foot, it's the cost effectiveness of maintaining that home over the next generation. And we feel really strong about those factors that go into the design. And, Breck's house, $208 a square foot. And he has reduced his energy efficiencies by $400 a month in the deep of winter. Like who doesn't want to live in a space like that? Anyway, we can just go on, but I think you see the point of where this firm is really taken serious to about one of our core values, which is being a good steward. We have to be a good steward, not just to Mother Earth, right? But also to our clients and to sustainability as a whole. And there is a crisis, and we really feel strongly that we have the tools to help developers help solve that crisis.
So many lessons on the benefits of specializing, being an expert and specializing and niching down to one specific thing. It's a great example of that. We talk about that a lot here on the podcast. Leslie, what advice would you give to architects who are looking to bring innovative ideas to market?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I believe that one of the greatest gifts that we've had is not thinking like an architect, like really go outside the norm and explore. There is so much technology now. Breck and his team have, on a side note, have created algorithms. I mean, like, meet today's marketplace where it's at. And don't be afraid. Just don't be afraid. Just go for it. We throw everybody who's on our team in the deep end of the pool. We do it on purpose. They're either going to make it or they're not. And we find out early on where their mindset is. And there is no dumb ideas. There are no dumb ideas. Some of them never come to light. But in order to get to the brilliance, we've got to really dig through the plethora of opportunities. And I think that's the biggest piece.
Breck, what does the future of 3 Squared look like next 3 to 5 years?
Ooh. Well, keep up or get left behind. So what the team and I are working on right now is to take all the lessons that we've learned and to program that. And artificial intelligence is here to stay. We are in the next layer of human evolution, and you can't ignore it. And we are fully embracing that. So we're taking a series of rule sets, as you've said, from specializing in this particular field. And we're building on that with the tools that are available to us so that we're able to maximize the yield and potential from everything to generating construction documents to the fabrication documents that are used to actually process the modules, be it shipping containers or modular steel boxes, whatever that medium is. Again, all those rule sets kind of apply. And so using that as leverage in the bigger picture conversations that we're dealing with, while really truly addressing a housing crisis on a bigger scale because of the economy of scale that our approach brings to the industry. We're neck deep in conversations with not just developers, but with municipalities themselves to address this on a bigger scale. And those conversations are gaining traction by the minute. And we're very, very excited for what's to come in the field of architecture.
I love that. Fascinating. I love that you've taken the innovation of what you do in the physical construction of what you do, and you're applying it to the way you do it, right? You're taking that innovation and you're pushing it beyond just the construction methods, but actually thinking about how the process of architecture works and the people involved and the technology involved. And very, very interesting. Leslie, do you have any thoughts on that question, 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I concur with Breck. I even hesitate to see what we will look like in 3 to 5 years, because with innovation, with AI, with all these new materials, it's going to look completely different.
Yeah.
What I do
3
know
to 5 years is such a long time to estimate.
It is. And what I know, though, is that we as a firm have created, it's been important to have that foundation for scalability. And that's the part I'm like, we have 10 now. Are we going to have 60 or 260 or 1,060 employees? We don't know, but we're ready for it. And that's the exciting part right now.
Yeah, very interesting. As we wrap up here, I want to ask you both the final question that I ask all my guests. I'll start with you, Leslie. What's one thing that a small firm architect can do today to build a better business for tomorrow?
I'm going to say, listen to your team.
Good answer.
Yeah, listen to the team. They have great ideas. Fantastic. But it's got to be a team effort.
And Breck, what do you think?
Complacency is death. If you're comfortable, you're doing something wrong. You got to stay uncomfortable at all times, and that's how progress gets made.
All right. Leslie Horn and Breck Crandell. 3 Squared is the company. 3 Squared Inc. is the website. Go check out the website. They are doing some amazing architecture. It's not what you expect. 3squaredinc.com. They also do a podcast. They're pretty good at this stuff. So you should go listen to their podcast. Innovative Real Estate is the podcast. Go check that out. And Instagram, Leslie mentioned Instagram. They have a great Instagram as well. 3 Squared Inc. there as well. Go say hi to them. Let them know that you heard us here on EntreArchitect Podcast. Leslie Horn, Breck Crandell, thank you both for sharing your thoughts and your ideas here with us and for joining us here at EntreArchitect Podcast.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we're so grateful. Again, thank you, Mark.
You're very welcome. If you liked this episode of EntreArchitect Podcast, please share a link to this episode with a friend. Either just click the share button or highlight the URL and send the link to this episode with a friend, because that's how EntreArchitect has grown to serve thousands more architects just like you throughout the 10 plus years of EntreArchitect. That's how we've grown, architect to architect. So I would love for you to share this episode and all the episodes with one friend every week. We'd love that. And thank you to our sponsors for this episode. We don't have an episode if there's no sponsors. So thank you to our sponsors. Links to those sponsors, which you should go visit and click, and all the resources that we discussed today for this specific episode, they are all available at entrearchitect.com/podcast. Every episode that we've recorded is there, entrearchitect.com/podcast. Go click the links to the sponsors and say hello. EntreArchitect is a member of the Gable Media Podcast Network. You should go visit that at gablemedia.com. That is the next evolution of interactive media and resources for the AEC community. You can now earn continuing education credits for listening to select episodes of this podcast, EntreArchitect Podcast. Yes, AIA CEUs for listening to a podcast. It's there, and many other podcasts are there as well, and you can listen to all of them and get credit. Learn more about our program, Gable Members Program, at the gablemedia.com/members website. That's GABL media.com/members. And if you are a small firm architect, join us today at EntreArchitect Network. That is the worldwide organization for small firm entrepreneur architects. If you own your own architecture firm, you are an entrepreneur architect. You are an EntreArchitect. With weekly live group business coaching, we have business coaching there, monthly live business training with AIA CEUs, 2 a month, so 24 AIA credits per year, including 12 of those are HSWs. We have them in the membership. Business resources, all the resources you need to run your business, special session webinars, mastermind groups, and a thriving community of small firm architects just like you. Hundreds of architects are there waiting for you to join. So we provide the support and encouragement you need to succeed as a small firm architect. I know that you haven't been trained as a business person when you launched your firm. That's what we do. Come learn how to run a business at EntreArchitect Network. And today, you can go join right now for free for 30 days at this link. EntreArchitect.com/30 days will give you free 30 days for membership. Go check it out at EntreArchitect.com/30 days, and I will see you there. Thank you for listening to this episode of EntreArchitect Podcast. My name is Mark R. LePage, and I want you to remember 3 words: love, learn, share. Have a great day.
Imagine earning continuing education credits while doing exactly what you're doing right now. Well, you can. Gable Media has revolutionized the way you earn your continuing education credits with a groundbreaking approach. Forget running around town and scouring the internet for credit-worthy courses. Fulfill your CE requirements effortlessly by listening to engaging podcasts just like the one you're listening to now. Our podcasts are designed to educate, entertain, and inspire, all in a user-friendly environment. But wait, there's more. Architects, Gable Media is also approved as an AIA continuing education services provider. Upon completion, we handle everything, from reporting your hours directly to the AIA to storing your certificates in your personal Gable Media profile for your self-reporting needs. So follow the link in the show notes and start earning your credits in the most innovative and entertaining way possible with Gable Media.
Attention architects and creative minds, get ready to supercharge your brand with Build Your Brand, the podcast that's unlocking the secrets of branding success for creatives. Hey there, it's Mark R. LePage, founder of EntreArchitect, and I'm inviting you to join my friend, architect marketing expert Jeff Eccles at Build Your Brand podcast, where he explores the captivating stories of the world's top brands and transforms their lessons into powerful moves for small firm architects and creatives like you. In Season 1, Jeff shares the thrilling tale of Southwest Airlines, where he dissects their journey to the summit and distills it into strategies tailor-made for you.
It's important to keep in mind that companies like Southwest compete in the real world, just like you, and face real-world challenges, just like you. You might be surprised at how similar those challenges are to the struggles that you grapple with on a day-to-day basis.
Don't miss out on your blueprint for success. Subscribe, tune in, and let's build your brand together.
You may have noticed that the very best brands in the world are also known for having somewhat unique corporate cultures. That's often the glue that holds everything together when they encounter those rough spots.
We don't do it because it inconveniences the passengers to whom we are primarily dedicated, the short haul, frequent flyer.
Follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Your Brand today. Remember, no matter the size, the journey's the same. Your brand's journey to the top starts here.